Welcome to Talepreneur, where we tell stories that teach moral values, financial education, and entrepreneurship. If you have ever tried to improve your financial life, you may have discovered something uncomfortable. Reducing expenses can only go so far. You can buy fewer things. You can walk instead of taking transport sometimes. You can cook more meals at home. At first, these changes feel powerful. You feel responsible. You feel disciplined. But after a while, another truth slowly appears. There is a limit to how much life can be reduced. Eventually, you reach a point where cutting back is no longer enough. And when that moment arrives, progress depends on something else. It depends on what you do with the quiet hours, the hours no one sees, not the hours at your official job, not the hours people praise, but the hours after work, the tired hours, the hours when motivation has already left for the day. Pause for a moment. Have you ever noticed that the most important changes in life often happen during those quiet hours? What do you usually do with yours? That was the season Adekunle had quietly entered. He lived and worked in Ibadan. Like many people, he was trying to build a stable life. Months earlier, he had started saving a small amount, just 5,000 naira each month. It was not much, but the habit had changed something inside him. The savings reduced panic. Unexpected expenses no longer felt like disasters. For the first time, Adekunle felt a small sense of control. But another truth remained. His salary was still small, and the responsibilities around him were not reducing. Transport costs kept rising. Food prices rarely moved downward. Family needs appeared without warning. So, Adekunle asked himself a simple question. If reducing expenses has limits, what else can I do? Adekunle worked as a teacher at a private secondary school. Recently, he had begun to take his work even more seriously. He arrived earlier in the mornings. He prepared clearer lesson notes. He explained concepts more patiently. When teaching economics, he slowed down. He made sure students understood the meaning behind graphs and definitions, not just the answers, but the ideas. Students began to notice the difference. One afternoon after class, two senior students approached him. They stood politely beside his desk. "Sir," one of them said, "our parents want us to improve our economics before the final exams." They hesitated for a moment. Then they asked a question. "Sir, can you teach us extra lessons?" Adekunle paused. Private tutoring was common among teachers, but he had never considered it seriously before. After school, he usually returned home. He rested, prepared food, and prepared the next day's lessons. But the request stayed in his mind. Teaching was already his strength. Maybe the quiet hours after work could serve a purpose. So, he agreed. Not a big arrangement, just two students, 3 evenings each week. They would come to his small room. They would sit in his modest living area. Nothing fancy, just learning. The first week felt easy. The students arrived around 5:30 in the evening. They sat on 2 plastic chairs facing a small whiteboard. Adekunle explained supply and demand curves again, this time more slowly. They asked questions. They practiced calculations. They corrected mistakes. By 7 o'clock, the lesson ended. The parents paid him a small tutoring fee. The amount was modest, but it was extra. That evening, Adekunle quietly added the money to his savings. Every extra naira joined the same small account he had started months earlier. Nothing dramatic happened, but something felt purposeful. Soon a routine formed. School during the day, tutoring in the evening. At first, the schedule felt productive. Adekunle enjoyed seeing the students improve. His savings were growing. The days felt meaningful. But after the first month, something began to change. Fatigue arrived quietly. Teaching all day required patience. By late afternoon, his energy was already lower. Evening tutoring extended the day further. Some evenings, Adekunle sat quietly before the students arrived. His shoulders felt heavy, his mind felt tired. A simple thought appeared. I am really tired today. Another thought followed. Maybe one evening break will not matter. These thoughts were not dramatic. They were ordinary. The kind of thoughts that appear whenever discipline meets exhaustion. Have you ever experienced a moment like this? When you knew what was right, but your energy wanted something easier. Sometimes the temptation felt strong. Adekunle imagined sending a message, "Let's cancel today's lesson." But then he remembered something. Months earlier, he had paid an unexpected medical bill from his savings, calmly, without panic. That moment had meant something. It had shown him what discipline could do. So he would stand up, stretch his shoulders, and open the door when the students arrived. Not every day felt strong, but he kept showing up. Weeks slowly turned into months. One afternoon during a classroom test, Adekunle walked slowly between the desks. Students were answering economics questions. Pens moved quietly across paper. One student caught his attention. A quiet boy who had struggled earlier in the term, but recently his scores had been improving. Adekunle realized something. The boy attended the evening tutoring sessions. The student looked up and whispered, "Sir, the graphs are easier now." Adekunle nodded gently, and as he continued walking between the desks, a realization formed. The student had not improved because of one powerful lesson. He improved because he kept coming back. 3 evenings every week. Practice after practice. Quiet repetition. Suddenly, Adekunle saw his own life clearly. His savings were growing the same way. Not through a big breakthrough, but through small, repeated effort. That evening, Adekunle reviewed his notebook. The numbers surprised him. Because of the tutoring income, he had increased his savings, slowly, carefully, without stress. For the first time, he realized something. He had quietly doubled the amount he saved each month. Not suddenly, but steadily. He leaned back in his chair. This routine is not exciting, he thought. Then another thought followed. But it is working. Sometimes progress does not look impressive. Sometimes it simply looks consistent. Over time, Adekunle noticed another change. The discipline he practiced with money was shaping his character. He became more thoughtful before spending, more patient when planning, less anxious about unexpected costs. For the first time in many years, he felt something simple: respect for himself. Not pride, just quiet respect. He had proven something important. He could continue a routine even when motivation disappeared. And that knowledge strengthened his confidence. If you want progress in life, financial, professional, or personal, do not depend on motivation. Depend on routine. Because routine carries you on the days when feelings cannot. And those quiet days often build the future. One evening, after finishing another tutoring session, Adekunle opened his notebook again. His savings were improving. His discipline was stronger. But another thought appeared. His income was still limited, and life was full of responsibilities. Family needs would eventually come. Requests would appear. Pressure would grow. So he wrote a short sentence in the corner of the page. Discipline protects you from pressure. He looked at the words carefully, because the next lesson in his journey would not only involve earning money, it would involve protecting the discipline he had built. And that realization quietly opened the next chapter of his story. Before we end today, take a moment to reflect. What quiet routine in your life is slowly shaping your future?
And what small step could you begin today that no one else needs to see? Thank you for spending these moments with us. If this story made you think, please share your thoughts in the comment section below. Your experience may encourage someone else. And if the next episode is not already on your screen, feel free to visit the channel and continue the journey. Because sometimes the most important progress happens quietly, one small decision at a time. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode.